I could save up $5, I'd go in and get $5 worth of pennies, nickels, or dimes in rolls. And I'd go through them and then return them the next day to see if there were any rare dates or key dates or anything like that.
Can you see that there? A Liberty seated $50?
Yeah, I can see it, and you're making me jealous, my man. Please join us for our next live stream Sunday, September the 15th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll go over current events, past guests, and of course, gold and silver news. Once again, our next live stream will be Sunday, September the 15th, 9 p.m. Eastern. See you then. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television, SBTV. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira. A little bit of housekeeping here. Once again, if you are new to this channel or have not already done so, please do subscribe, click on the bell to be notified on new updates, and do give us a thumbs up if you like what we do. We appreciate your support. Our guest today is Van Simmons, a dedicated numismatist who has earned his place in the rare coin pantheon as the leading coin merchant of his time. He specializes in portfolio construction, building, and helping clients acquire the world's finest rare coins. Van is the partner and president of David Hall Rare Coins, and he is one of the founders of the Professional Coin Grading Service, better known to us all as PCGS, the largest rare coin grading service in the world. Van, good day and welcome to SBTV. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Great, glad we could have you on. You are one interesting guy, and I'm looking forward to getting to know the world of numismatics. Van, I'm curious though about how you got into the rare coin business. Can we start with that, where you shared your story?
I've been a collector of a lot of things ever since I was a little kid, and everything from rocks to marbles to coins. And I think most of the kids growing up in the 60s and stuff were coin collectors and stamp collectors. So being a collector, that's what happened in the early mid 70s. I started making pretty good money in another business and stuff, and then started buying coins more on a regular basis as a collector, then became a dealer by the late 70s. So, and then David Hall and I became partners in 1980. So we've been business partners now almost 40 years. So I actually started buying coins from David, and I realized how smart he was in the rare coin market. I figured he'd probably forget more about coins than I'd ever learned. So it was a lot of fun working with him and dealing with him, and then he and I becoming business partners.
Yeah, I think I remember that time also back in the, I was growing up in the 70s, and I remember my mom, she had a stamp book, and there were times when, I was a kid, we would sit on the bed and she would dump out the coins and she would tell me what coins to look for. So, I mean, I think that was a thing back then if you were a kid growing up. So completely agree.
Absolutely. My parents I used to go to the bank, and when I could save up $5, I'd go in and get $5 worth of pennies, nickels, or dimes in rolls, and I'd go through them and then return them the next day to see if there were any rare dates or key dates or anything like that. So that's how most coin collectors started back in the 60s and stuff.
You collect, most of the coins are golden and silver, I'm assuming. Do you consider yourself to be a gold bug, or how do you view gold and silver?
Well, I was buying and selling gold back in the 60s before gold was legal, and my poor mother, here I'm this teenager buying and selling gold coins, and my poor mother was convinced the FBI was going to raid our house because in the United States gold was illegal at that point. So I've been a gold bug ever since then. I've understood the theory of gold. I've understood the fiat currencies. I've understood government's controls over things. So for me, gold was a natural asset, a natural thing for me to lean towards. And I look at now the currencies of the world that are starting to crumble. I saw today that the Australian dollar hit a new 10-year low, and I have friends in Australia, and I feel like 5 years ago I was saying, why don't you put some of your money into gold and just start diversifying a little bit? And, gold is now at record highs in, over 60 different countries around the world. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I've been a gold bug and silver bug my whole life, yes.
Okay, yeah, I think I forgot about that. I think it was illegal up until President Ford. I think he made it legal again.
Yeah, 74 or 75, I think, is when you could start owning it again.
Oh, okay, yeah, completely forgot about that. I'm a silver guy myself, but despite the knowledge of bullion, when it comes to the rare coin business, I gotta admit I don't know that much about it. So can you give us an overview of the rare coin market, how big it is, how liquid are rare coins, and why is it a good area for investors to look into?
Well, let's start with how large it is. It's probably a $5 billion market. That doesn't include bullion-related coins. That doesn't include new issues that the U.S. Mint the U.S. Mint is probably the largest coin dealer in the world, and other mints of the world, they manufacture new coins every day, different designs and different commemorative things and stuff like that. But in the vintage rare coin market, it's about a $5 billion market.
How liquid are the rare coins?
Very liquid. They're like water. They're like gold and silver. They're very liquid. A good example was when the market crashed in 2007, 2008. I had a client who had just spent a couple $100,000 with me about 6 months before. He was big in the real estate market, and I explained to him, I said, this is like a 5 or 10 year hold. It isn't something you buy and flip. It's an asset that you buy and you hold, just like a piece of real estate. Well, when the market, he goes, oh, I know real estate. I've got 3 offices and so on and so forth. Well, when the market flipped, he called me one day and he said, what are my coins worth? And I said, well, you just bought them a few months ago. And I went through and the market had moved up slightly and everything. I said, I'd be a buyer at 190 to 195,000. And I think he spent 201 or something. Anyway, he comes by like 45 minutes later with his coins and wants to sell them. And pretty soon he's complaining and says, God, I can't believe I'm taking, I think it was a $7,000 or $8,000 loss. And I said, well, I told you at the beginning, this is a long-term hold. It's 5-10 years. Maybe 20 years. I don't know what the markets are going to do because a lot of them are, controlled by inflation and things like that. And so within about 20 minutes, he's walking out of my office with a check for 192,000. I don't remember now. And he started complaining again about what he lost. And I said, well, why are you selling? He goes, well, I've lost everything in the real estate market. He goes, I'm in the brokerage business. He goes, my loans have gone bad. I can't borrow money. I can't do this. I said, so in reality, the 200 grand you put into coins is probably the best investment you made in the last 6 months because it's instantly liquid. You can walk. I said, where else can you go and an hour later walk out with a check for a couple $100 grand? So as far as liquidity, they're very liquid. As long as you have a good relationship with an honest dealer that, buys and sells a product and makes a two-way street.
Okay. Oh, it's good to know. We talked about when we were kids. Do you see a new generation catching on with collecting of new coins? Are young collectors coming to the coin shows?
You see quite a few young kids at coin shows. Mm-hmm. Most of the people, the coin market is in an area where it's more people who have money. So you'll see a lot of the dot-commers and things like that who have made money come to the shows. A lot of them have spent 100, 200, 300 million on coins, some of the software guys. But the young kids, so there we're talking about guys in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. But the younger kids, you see some of them, but not like when I was a child. When I was a child, you go to a coin show and, 5 or 6 of your friends would all go to a coin show. But the market has become so mature and so refined, it's become more of a specialized market.
Yeah, I guess the younger kids, I'm assuming they would show up with their grandparents because their grandparents knew the gold and silver and the coins, but their kids, they didn't grow up with any silver or gold and coins.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Okay. But in the world of rare coins, which ones are the major coin shows that would give new collectors a good taste of the rare coin market?
There's about 5 major ones. The Long Beach Coin Show is 3 times a year. I think it's September, January, and June. Or maybe it's February. It changes a little bit. That's the Long Beach, California Coin Show. That's a big show, probably 600 to 700 dealers there. And you walk in and you realize, there's $1 billion. You can have $10-20 million in some guy's briefcase walking around. The next one is the Florida United Numismatist Show, which is nicknamed the Fun Show. It's usually the first or second week in January, usually in Orlando. Sometimes it switches to Tampa, but I think it's in Orlando this year. And then the American Numismatic Association has a large show once a year, which we just had 3 weeks ago in Chicago, and it usually moves to different cities every year. But okay. Those are 5 major shows. And then there's a coin show every place. There's a coin show someplace in the nation every weekend. You can always find one. There's small ones here in Orange County, California, and so you find them any place you want.
Wow, I would completely be like a kid in the candy shop if I got to go to one of those. But the Professional Coin Grading Service, otherwise known to us as PCGS. The acronym is pretty well known around the world, and you're one of the founders of PCGS. Can you share with us what were the circumstances that led you and your partners to think about the need for a universal standard like PCGS for coins?
Yeah, it was at the time we were trying to buy, there was a big run on Mint State 65, which is a coin grade, a grade of a coin. We're trying to buy Mint State 65 and higher silver dollars because we had a large collector base and investor base that was trying to buy them. And the prices were moving up. And I'd fly to Florida to do a show to see coins, and I'd fly to Chicago and I'd fly here because I had to see the coins. Or dealers would ship me coins that they thought were MS65, and David and I would go through them. You know, we may go through 100 coins and pick out 4 or 5 or 10 that we agreed with. But there were a couple of guys who would send us MS65 coins, and we'd pick out like 90 out of 100 and agree with them on the grade. And one day, David and I were having breakfast, which we would do a couple times a week before work and talk about what was going on in the office and everything else. And I was complaining. I was really bitching and saying, you know, what's going on here? I mean, it's such a hassle. They ship us coins. We have to ship them back. And I have to travel all over the country. And David has to travel all over the country to buy coins. And then the next day he came to me and goes, isn't there a way we could solve this? And I said, well, how do you solve it? And he goes, why don't we get together with the guys who we agree with the grade and start our own grading service? So it was David's idea from day one. And I thought it was fantastic. And I said, I'm in, you know, let's put some money in this thing and start this thing. And it started about 5 days after that. We started putting meetings together and going through it. It took us about 1.5 or 2 years before we opened the door. That would have been in 84 and 86 we opened the door. So it was almost 2 years before we actually opened the doors. But before then, we had grading standards set up. We had the group of guys that we wanted to deal with. And at that time, we had to include people who dealt in like common date rolls of silver dollars and lower grade things. And we had people who specialized in high-end gold coins and high-end silver coins and things like that. So we had about 6 of us and it was hard when we opened for the industry to argue with the grade of the coins because you had 5 or 6 of the smartest people in the coin business. 5 or 6 of the 10 or 12 smartest people in the coin business started this company. So it really was a good thing for the coin business, and and the other thing is it became hard because I'd see clients come in and they'd say, you know, what are my coins worth? And they were all overgraded. And they'd say, well, you know, you bought this at this grade, but it's not that grade. And the people they bought them from wouldn't buy them back. So what we were trying to do was create a level playing field for investors and collectors, because there's nothing worse than buying something because you really like it and then finding out later it's not what you thought it was, or it was counterfeit or something like that. So.
Yeah, because I mean that kind of goes into my next question, where I was wondering how challenging was it to get collectors to adopt PCGS when it first started?
Well, it was interesting. We had a pretty big following with a lot of the financial newsletter writers at the time, which included guys. You know, I'm going back to the '80s, so these may not be people you know, but Gary North, who wrote the Remnant Review. There was Ari McMaster, who wrote a newsletter called The Reaper. There's Howard Ruff, who wrote a newsletter called Rough Times. And these were all financial writers. And they happened to be friends of mine. And so I explained to them what we were doing. Well, when we opened the doors, they all wrote them up. And we were in the black the first week. And we were within 2 months. It would take 6 months to get your coins graded because it became very evident that there was a level playing field, I guess is the best way to explain it. And that's the only way to buy your coins. And pretty soon dealers couldn't sell coins because most of the collectors adopted it immediately. A lot of collectors who were old-time collectors and thought they knew everything disagreed and said, oh, I can do this. But, you know, several years later, they had to kind of come on board. I'd say 99% of the people who collect coins depend on us to grade the coins, depend on PCGS to grade the coins.
Can you share with us how the PCGS grading system works and how widely it is used today?
Well, it's kind of flattering. If I go to a coin show and there's 1,000 dealers selling coins and they all have showcases, I would say 90% or 95% of them have coins graded by our company. So how it works is a coin comes in and is opened, you know, with a camera, and the girl opens it and explains what the coins are. Then they go in a box, and the box is labeled with no identification of who owns the coins. It's just labeled with a number, and then it goes through a couple steps. And then when it gets to the grading room, the grader looks at it, and he goes through and grades coins and enters this grade into the computer. And his coins are graded based on eye appeal, the amount of marks, the luster, in other words, the original luster of the coin, and how well struck the coin is. So there's about 4 categories or criteria to grade a coin. And then he puts a grade, and sometimes 2 or 3 other, well, it's usually 2 or 3 people at a time. In other words, the box then goes from him to the next grader later on in the day, and then the next grader later on in the day, and they all put their grade in, and there's a consensus of grade, and it's usually, 95% they all have the same grade. Sometimes there'll be a grade that is different, and where it'll, like, let's say somebody will grade at 64, 65, 65, or 65, 66, 66, or whatever, and then it'll go to a finalizer, and the finalizer will look at the coin and say, here's the final grade on it. And that's the way the process has always been. It may have changed in the last year or so, but that's the way it's always been.
Okay, so it's a consensus. It's not just one guy kind of looking at the coin and.
No.
Okay.
And as far as how widely it's used, as I started to say a minute ago, if you went to a coin show with 1,000 dealers, probably 950 of them would have coins graded by our companies in there. I think PCGS, I don't mean PCGS has 14 to 1,500 authorized dealers around the world now. They have an office in Paris, Beijing, Hong Kong. I think there's one in Tokyo now, and then here in Orange County. The majority of the business is done here. The foreign coins and stuff are done in other countries.
Okay. I'd imagine you get guys, when they send you coins, they try to polish it up a bit, give it a little bit more sparkle before it gets to you.
All the time, and then they're just returned as altered surfaces and things like that. Banter altered surfaces or counterfeit, and so it can be kind of difficult sometimes, for people to accept it where they get it back and they go, "What do you mean? It's not right," And there's coin doctors who fix coins. They can fill holes and fill marks, and they become pretty sophisticated at it. But when you're talking about coins that range anywhere from a couple $100s to several $100,000 or more, the more expensive, the more sharks get in the water, try and take advantage of people. So.
Okay, and so when let's say I have a coin I want graded, I send it to you, and then it would take about how many weeks before it gets a grade and sent back again?
Depends on the service. You would send it directly to PCGS. You'd have to call them and set up an account with, I think they have a collectors club that you can join. And then you would ship the coin to them. Mm-hmm. And if it's an expensive gold coin or an expensive silver coin, it usually goes through a faster service. If it's a more common lower grade thing, it goes through a slower service. But it's usually a couple weeks, door to door, because you FedEx it to them, it takes 2 days to get there. They FedEx it back, it takes 2 days to get there. By the time they process and put it through, usually takes about a week or so. Unless it's a slow process. If it's something that doesn't have a lot of value, sometimes it can take 30 to 60 days. And I could be wrong on those because the time changes, based on how busy they are.
Okay, so let's say, is there like we open the account, we say we want to ship you a coin. Is there like a package you might send to us that we can put the coin in, or do we just send it off on our own?
They would send you paperwork to fill out, and you send it out on your own.
Which would you say are the top 3 most sought after coins out there, and what's their value today?
Top 3, I don't know if there's a top 3. So you have different categories of people who collect. There's people who collect because they want to buy bullion coins. So they buy bags of silver dollars or low-grade $20 gold pieces. I think the most purchased coin is a $20 Liberty or a $20 St. Gaudens. The next one would be a silver dollar. But there's really different areas of collectability in the marketplace. So you have people who collect gold coins. Well, within the gold coins, you have coins going all the way back to 1795 to around 1850, which is classified as early gold, and then 1850 on, which is in 1850 to 1933, which is the more modern types of gold coins. So in that area, you have people who collect those, and there's a wide variety. I mean, a 1795 $5 gold piece, I think the U.S. government minted 5,400 coins. If you had one that was in MS-63 condition, it's probably a $200,000 coin. I don't know if it's the most sought after, but it's one every coin collector would ever want. So the other areas would be silver dollars, which is a huge area of the market, and people collect those by date and by variety, because you have Drake bust silver dollars, you have Morgan dollars, and you have peace dollars. The next area would be 19th century silver type coins, which could also include nickel and copper, but that would include everything from Coins struck throughout the 1800s, late 1700s, early 1900s. So you have coins that were struck through that period that would be Liberty seated half dimes, dimes, quarters, half dollars, and silver dollars. Barber dimes, quarters, and halves. They were struck from 1892 to 1916. So you have people like I personally collect some of the Barber coins. I have a complete set of proofs, and proofs are different than business strikes. Business strikes were struck like the coins you carry in your pocket for everyday commerce. The proofs were struck for collectors. So they started in the proofs for Barber coins in 1892 and only made them until 1915. So you can assemble a set of every date from 1892 to 1915 of dimes, quarters, and halves, or you can buy one dime, one quarter, and one half in proof. Very collectible. They're all very, very collectible. So there's not a specific three coins. I would think a wire edge $10 gold piece is one of the most desirable coins, which was struck in 1907. What happened in 1907? You had Teddy Roosevelt go to the and want to find the best sculptor in the world, so he hired Augustus St. Gaudens, and he said, I want the most beautiful coins in the world. So he designed the $20 St. Gaudens, but he died a month before the coins were struck, and his relief was too high on the coins, so the coins couldn't stack. They rocked back and forth. They couldn't get the gold all the way up into the die. So that coins, I think there were about 11,200 or 12,000, the number changes all the time, of those originally struck. And then when they couldn't be struck correctly, then they hired Charles Barber to redesign the coins. So everybody who has St. Gaudens today doesn't have an original St. Gaudens. They have, I mean, it is, but it's designed by a different man, just changed a little bit. And then the other coin he made was the $10 Indian. Well, those two coins are by far the most popular U.S. gold coins. And the $10 Indian, they made the wire edge $10 gold piece. They only made 500 of them. And then they made a rolled edge $10 gold piece, which they destroyed almost all of them. I think there were 42 or 44 that were left, and some of those are in museums. So a wire edge $10 gold piece in MS65 is probably $85,000 or so. One in MS66 is $140,000, $150,000. A rolled edge $10 gold piece in MS65 is, I'd easily be a buyer at $250 if one walked in the door. I'm guessing it's about a $300,000 coin. So there's different areas of the market that are very desirable. It just depends on what people are looking for.
Okay. How about yourself, Van? Which is your favorite coin? Many.
I'm a collector of a lot of things. I don't have a favorite coin. Well, here's one that I'm thinking about buying, which I certainly don't need. I don't know if I can show you that. Can you see that there? A Liberty seated $50.
Yeah, I can see it, and you're making me jealous, my man.
Well,
okay. It's a nice coin.
By far the most beautiful U.S. coins, in my opinion. They were made from 1837, 1838, up until 1891. They made half dimes, dimes, quarters, half dollars, and silver dollars. Proof Liberty seated dollars are like as collectible and desirable as can be. So I don't have a favorite. I like almost everything. Okay. You're saying you like blondes, brunettes, or redheads.
Okay. Can't discriminate, huh?
That's right.
Okay. Okay. But I guess you touched on it a bit, but how is the actual rarity and value of a coin determined? At what point do coins transit from the common to being considered rare?
Well, it depends. The marketplace does it. So one of the things when you have a grading standard, it's pretty easy to set the prices. If the grading standard changes, prices go down or prices go up, depending if they get too loose or too tight. So it's sort of like the last bastion of free enterprise in the coin business, because it's a free trading market, and I can look up and see. We have another system that dealers subscribe to, and I think there's about 500 dealers that put bid and ask markets up on coins. So you can see what a coin is traded for in the last 5 years or 10 years or 15 years in auction. You can see what dealers have them for sale for. You can see what dealers are willing to pay for them. And that's a pretty accurate way to find out values. The main thing is just finding somebody that is going to give you the straight story. Here's how much it is. I have people say, well, what would you buy it back for? And what would you pay for this? And what did you pay for it? And, everything else. And I always kind of laugh because I'll tell them what I'll buy it back for. And I had one guy one time and he says, "Well, what did you pay for this?" And I said, "Well, to tell you the truth, Bob, I just picked it up off the floor to show. I found it for free, but it's $50,000. So you decide what you want to do." But the marketplace sets the value.
Okay, I hear
The,
you.
the open market. It's a very free market business.
Okay. At Silver Bullion, we frequently test bullion brought into our storage to ensure that they are genuine. And the bullion industry has seen its share of news about counterfeit bullion circulating. So I'm curious to know how pervasive is this issue of counterfeit coins in the rare coin market, and how can collectors protect themselves?
It's become pretty pervasive. I have full sets of Barber dimes, quarters, and half dollars, Liberty seated dollars, every date, every mint mark, all trade dollars, every date, every mint mark. What else do I have? Morgan dollars, seated dollars, trade dollars, full sets, and they're all counterfeit.
Oh,
And they all look perfect. In China right now, it's not against a lot of counterfeit U.S. coins. So they have, and I don't remember the exact thing, but the people who were working our Chinese office over there, I think at one point David came back and said there were like over 100 coin counterfeiters in China. So if you go someplace and some guy's waiting out in a parking lot of, a grocery store and says, "Hey, I've got these coins, will you buy them for the silver value?" They're probably not real. That's one of the reasons you can't really buy coins without, in my mind, them being authenticated and graded by PCGS. I mean, that's the industry standard in my mind. They have the strictest reputation. And to think you're smart enough to do it on your own, you're dreaming in my mind. You just have to deal with some. Now, if you're talking about bags of pre-1964 quarters and circulated silver dollars and stuff like that, you just buy them from a reputable dealer. Those don't have to be graded and certified. But if you're buying rarer collectible coins, you certainly want to buy something that has some type of pedigree or authentication with it. So and with PCGS, you can get a coin that's graded and certified with their guarantee that they'll buy it back if there is anything wrong with it. And then a lot of times it'll have a pedigree as to what famous collections the coin may have belonged to in the past.
yeah. I mean, every now and then we run into counterfeits, and but we kind of hang on to them. So when we test coins for our customers, they can see what a counterfeit looks
Sure.
like and how it would test out on the meters.
It's amazing how some people don't want to accept the fact that they were taken, or somebody took advantage of them. And so you do have to show them. It's very sad, but it does happen.
So at David Hall Rare Coins, part of what they do is they help build and they help clients acquire the world's finest rare coins, and they build portfolios. Can you take us through how you do this, and why would someone want a rare coin portfolio?
Okay, so to begin with, why would somebody want a rare coin portfolio? It's a fun thing to collect. It's a wonderful place to put money. I mean, these are probably, when you're speaking about America per se, because I mostly deal in U.S. coins, like we just got in a 1650 shilling, and a fantastic coin. David actually bought it for his personal collection. In 1650, it was against the law, like it is today, to mint your own coins. Well, this was basically America telling King George, stick it. We're going to make our own. We're a free nation, and we're going to do this. Rare coins are sort of it's a way of explaining to the rest of the world, we're our own free sovereign nation, and they're like the height of the American artistic beauty and things like that. So people like to collect things that have history attached to them, whether it would be George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, things like that, or, Clinton or whomever it may be, and depending on what country you're in. So you have collectors who like pieces of history. People who also want to find a place to park money that they feel is going to be advantageous in 10 or 20 years, because right now with interest rates at close to zero, and people are trying to find places that they can put money that are going to yield some type of a return over the next 5, 10, 20 years. They're also a wonderful place for people to put money, put assets that they're holding in their hands. They're not registered like a piece of real estate or like a stock, and they pass from one generation to the next pretty quietly. I mean, I have a lot of families who are buying coins to pass from one generation to the next. I had a couple families in New York, and one owned Fifth Avenue and one owned Madison Avenue. I mean, building after building after building. And they were buying back in the 80s and all through the 90s just to pass wealth from one generation to the next. And it's a very tangible product that's very liquid worldwide. So like the $20 gold pieces and things like that I buy and sell every day. I make a daily market and the spread's anywhere from $25 to $50 a coin. Those coins, almost all of them I get come from Europe or South America, because after 1933, that's where almost all of them went. And it was mostly 20s, because 20s were used for interbank transfers of business deals and things like that. So now there's a big business where they repatriate the coins, a lot of dealers go over to Europe and South America and buy deals from banks of old $20 gold pieces that they have. And thousands a week come in.
Oh, that's pretty interesting there. But lately, how has the price rally in gold and silver during the last 3 months impacted the rare coin market?
Two different areas. If you're talking about $20 gold pieces and things like that to me are sort of a bullion coin, but a collectible, has obviously affected those quite a bit, 20 to 40%, because the price of gold has gone up. It reacts to that. As far as the rare coin part, some of the prices have firmed up a little bit, but not a lot, only because, and don't get me wrong, when the price of gold goes up, my phone rings more. So there's a lot more buyers than when the price of gold goes down. And the gold bullion market now is only about 4 months old. The price of gold spiking up from 12.10 to 15.50 or 15.25 or wherever it is right now. So it's only kind of still young and in this bull market. So it hasn't affected the rare coin market that much at all, except for demand. Demand will increase demand. Increased demand will decrease supply, which will increase prices. It just takes more than 3 months.
Okay, yeah, great. That answers my question. I was wondering how it would work out percentage wise on the rare coins. How much of a percentage does the gold price movement affect the price of that rare coin?
Probably on rare coins, the velocity may be 10 or 20%. I'll give you an example. The 1650 shilling that David bought, I kind of laughed and I said, and I know what he paid for it. It was a lot of money. It was 6 figures. And I go, the interesting part about this, I go, if gold dropped back below $1,000, this would still be worth what you paid for it. And it would be, because it's a different part of the market, but it still has an affection or something tied to the bullion market. So the fact that rare coins have not gone up in the last couple of months, to me, makes them pretty advantageous price levels. I mean, I like where they are right now quite a bit. It's hard for me not to buy that $50 I just showed you.
We just started selling some junk silver, pre-65 quarters. I don't think, you're not going to find those. I don't think anyway, you're going to find those really, really rare coins in a bag of junk silver coming from a dealer. I'm pretty sure it's all been taken out already.
They were taken out back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, yeah. So the stuff you get now in junk bags is just, common date junk silver coins.
Are your clients worried about how their rare coin portfolio will perform in a financial crisis? And what do you tell them if they ask?
Well, collectors always say they're not in it for the money. They're just in it for collectors, and they don't care what the prices do, which is completely untrue, because they all want to know, what's my coin worth now? What's my portfolio worth now? If we have an economic collapse, everything goes down. When we saw 2008 happen, the coin market stumbled a little bit, but not much, because people were sitting there saying, wait a minute, they can't come and take this. I own this. I don't need to sell this. And it wasn't like real estate that was leveraged, to 80 or 90 or 100% or something like that. They own them outright. And so I don't see it affecting it a lot. Now, if we went into a major depression, everything would be affected. In 2008, 2009, the stumble we had was maybe 3 weeks, when you didn't know if Lehman Brothers was going to be in business. You didn't know where LIBOR was that day. I mean, nobody could quote anything. And then pretty soon you had people calling and wanting to buy. The best story I have, 3 of my friends or clients are billionaires. And in that week, let's say 2 weeks, all three of them called separately and said, if anybody has anything great for sale, I want to buy it. And I said, well, nobody's selling any great coins. Well, two of the three said, price doesn't matter. I just want something that I know in 20, 30, 40 years is still going to have value. They were seeking a harbor of safety. And rare coins was one of the main things. And the one guy says, I'll take 10-carat flawless diamonds. I'll take watches. I'll take anything that somebody wants to sell that has value. But rare coins was the main thing that people were going after.
Okay, that's pretty interesting, Van. Before we wrap up, can you let our listeners know more about your work at David Hall Rare Coins?
Well, my work is pretty simple. I used to have about 70 employees, and now I've scaled it back to 4 employees or 4 or 5 people who work for me, my son being one of them, another guy who's worked for me for about 10 years. And so I've scaled my business back quite a bit, and we just specialize with collectors or people who want to build portfolios. Collectors are looking for very specific coins, whether it be a 2-cent piece that was struck during the Civil War or certain dates in silver dollars or things like that. And then we have people who are just saying, I want to put X amount, 5,000, 10,000, $1 million, whatever, into the rare coin market. I have a gentleman right now, I'm working on a large portfolio, and it started about 3 weeks ago. And I said, well, are you in a rush? And he said, no. I said, well, let's take a month or so, or maybe longer, and let's just buy stuff as good things come on the market. I mean, it's easy for me to fill a portfolio for any amount within a day or two. But if they're willing to take the time and let us structure something that builds a cohesive portfolio or collection, it can be a collection of things or it can be a portfolio of a diversification of things, something that makes some cohesive sense where you're looking at, oh, this is structured correctly. Part of it is in gold coins, part of it is in 19th century type coins, part of it is in silver dollars, part of it is in silver and gold commemoratives. Those are the most collected areas of the coin market, and putting money into each one of those, they're kind of like the meat and potatoes of the coin business for the last 50 years. So that's what we try and do here is structure stuff that's going to make sense to people. And I can't affect market prices. Prices go up and prices go down. Some coins have been slaughtered in price in the last 15, 20 years, and some coins have gone up dramatically. The stuff that's been slaughtered, to me, is hard not to buy because I like things buying on sale as opposed to buying it over retail. So
building these portfolios, it does take a bit of passion and a bit of fun when you're out there searching for these coins to build it up.
Yeah, and if people are just patient, it's very easy. A lot of people aren't patient. They say, no, the market's going to move up, which it's not. They think the market's going to move up by Friday at noon because of something some newsletter writer had written. And if they're just willing and patient, I mean, we can structure wonderful, wonderful portfolios that they can enjoy collecting. They can pass it from one generation to the next. If it goes up, they can sell it and liquidate all of it or parts of it at any time during the market cycle because they don't all go up at once. Like gold coins may go up and then silver dollars may go up. Different areas get hot for periods of time. And when they get really hot and people are dying to buy them, you have to sell them. I call clients and tell them to sell them. And some things have been really run up high in price and then they get slaughtered in price because they become overvalued. Once they get slaughtered pretty hard, to me, that's the best time to buy. Especially something that's been collected for, something that has a 100-year track record of being collectible. And it gets overvalued, and then collectors can no longer add to their collection. But then it gets so cheap that they can't help but add to their collection because prices are so cheap. That's a good time to buy.
Yeah, so I guess if we go back to, let's say, 2011 when gold and silver were at their highs, if a person had a rare coin and a person had a bullion coin, we know that bullion coin went down, but the one who had that rare coin, I'm pretty sure it held its value still.
Depends on the coin. If it was a common generic coin, it will have gone down because some of it came on the market. And also during that time period, you have to realize people then moved into real estate because the interest rates are so low, and they moved into the stock market. So we've seen a lot of money transfer out of the coin market into the real estate market and into the stock market. Well, those two markets are pretty fully priced. At least in California, real estate's pretty fully priced. I mean, if you want to collect cars, you're going to pay $200,000 or $300,000 for a garage just to park your cars in. So things have become pretty expensive in certain markets. And like I say, things get overpriced. The old saying is bull markets create bear markets and bear markets create bull markets. Things get overpriced and then they get sold off. Things become underpriced and they become too cheap, and then you get a bull market in them because then people start adding to their portfolios. When you have long-term collectors like myself or David buying coins and adding them to our portfolio, It's because they're so cheap, our greed level gets to a point where we have to buy them personally. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm just telling you, when it gets to the point where I'm stepping up writing checks for things, it's because I believe in the product.
Okay. Van Simmons, we appreciate your time and you coming on the show and talking to us about the rare coins. It's something that I think a lot of people in bullion we know about, we hear about, but we never really get in depth with it. So I'm glad you shared some of it with us today.
So thank you. I appreciate it. If you have any other questions, they can email me at van@davidhall.com if they'd like, or call me. Either one.
Okay, will do. Van Simmons, again, we appreciate your time, and we'll definitely be sending people to take a look at the website.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
That was Van Simmons, partner and president of David Hall Rare Coins. For more of his insights on the rare coin market, please visit his website, davidhall.com. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the SBTV channel to be updated on new content, and do also check out the SBTV podcast on iTunes and Spotify.